Hey everyone, welcome back to Game Dev Channel. I am James and also the Brink. Today we're going to be tackling a question that sparks a lot of debate in the gaming community. Why are games not as good as they used to be? Here's the thing. We're going to be changing the perspective, the lens on this, because as a game development channel, we're going to be looking through the lens of a game developer and why maybe we can improve ourselves, but also understand the players. So from classics like Mario 64 to Final Fantasy VII, many of us have fond memories of games that shaped our love for gaming. But why do some feel that today's games just don't measure up to those of the past? Now, nostalgia is a strong mistress, and we'll get to that in a second. But first up, technological advancements, I think, are a big part of this. Back in the day, games were simpler graphically and mechanically. Today, players expect cutting-edge visuals, sophisticated AI, immersive worlds that are just open and growing and growing and growing, and eventually we're just never going to be able to complete in our they're going to come out with a game where it's like, okay, to run from one side to the other, it's just like if you're trying to run from one side of the world to the other, and it's just going to take your whole life. This leap in technology means that developers have to dedicate more resources and time to meet these high expectations. Creating highly detailed worlds and realistic character models is no small feat and comes with loads of bugs. So many bugs. Every time you fix a bug, there's a new bug. Now, take Cyberpunk 2077, for instance. The game was highly anticipated for its graphics and expansive world, but it faced significant technical challenges at launch, highlighting how difficult it can be to meet modern expectations. Now, there was some greed aspects to this, or some miscommunication in management, but we don't need to go into that right now, but definitely no good. Corporate influence and profit motives also shape modern game development. With larger teams and higher budgets, there's often pressure to play it safe with established formulas rather than taking creative risks. So if you're an indie developer, you can take more risks, but you got to remember, you got to probably take a paycheck at the end of this if you're trying to make a living off of it, trying to survive, trying to pay rent. So publishers need to see a return on their investment, which can lead to decisions that prioritize profitability over innovation. This is why we often see sequels and remakes that are a safer bet. Sometimes they're not as fun to work on, and sometimes they are. I don't know. For me, I like the idea of working on more of the thing I like, but sometimes it's nice to just mix it up. I wouldn't want to work on a series, I think, for 10 games, but for 2 or 3 maybe. So look at the annual releases of franchises like Call of Duty, FIFA. These games often see incremental changes rather than groundbreaking innovations because they guarantee sales. It's a model that works. It's not very fun for some of us, but for others it works. Like, we have a plethora of games that we can develop out there. We don't have to do Call of Duty. As a developer, you don't have to do a Call of Duty game. There's other genres that pay. Now, if you want to be a multi-billionaire, maybe you need to go down that route. But if you're in it for the money and you don't have any passion for this, there's better places to go. You can maybe become a crypto bro or something. Now, audience expectations is a big part of this. Nostalgia plays a significant role. Many gamers compare new releases to their childhood favorites, often viewing older games through the lens of personal memories, emotional attachments. When we were growing up, it's not like we just didn't understand the world fully. Puberty can add a lot of emotions to that. Playing games and interacting with characters in it where we relate were just stronger emotional times back then, and we connected more. So yeah, nostalgia can play a big part of that. It doesn't mean we can't create games that people enjoy now, and there's new gamers created every day, birthed, spawned into this world, if you may, that we can provide these experiences in their youth too. So our memories of older games are often tied to the emotions we felt when we first played them. This emotional connection can make it hard for modern games to compete. It really does depend on what type of game it is, of course, too. Consider the reaction to remakes like Final Fantasy VII Remake. While many praised the updated graphics and gameplay, some felt it didn't capture the magic of the original. And I agree with that, but also disagree. I do. It's just sometimes when you play something and experience a story the first time, even if you try to do a remake and do almost everything right, it's just hard to beat what your heart loves when you originally played it. Even if you go back and play some of the games that you enjoyed as a kid, it's not quite the same still sometimes. And so For us on the game developer side, we sometimes can use tropes and other aspects to relate to their favorite moments or to nostalgia, and that can be a really good hook for some games. Development challenges, it's just like with games, it's getting more complex than ever. It involves managing large teams, navigating cutting edge technologies, adapting to market trends that evolve rapidly. Coordination between various departments, art, design, programming, and more requires meticulous planning and communication. Delays and budget overruns are common in such a complex environment, especially when you were expecting to be done sooner, or you really just went out of scope and just didn't understand how complex this was going to be. It's really hard. Some studios have it down to a science, others don't. And depending on what type of game, especially if you have not worked on that type of game before, it's hard for us to do it. So make sure that you scope properly if you're trying to finish a game and also have a budget to finish it. The development of games like Anthem, which had a troubled production cycle, shows how internal challenges can impact the final product. Despite having a strong concept, execution issues led to disappointing releases. Oftentimes with these teams, directors leave, and just a lot of things can collapse a team internally, and sometimes we don't see it from the outside, and they still released it. So it's hard to say if you should release a garbage game or not. It's just maybe it's best to maybe pivot or maybe not, to not damage your image. Tropes and fresh ideas. Another aspect to consider is balancing between familiar tropes and fresh ideas. Games often rely on recognizable storytelling devices and gameplay mechanics to attract players. While tropes can provide a sense of familiarity and comfort, over-reliance on them can make games feel repetitive and uninspired. Fresh ideas are crucial for keeping the industry vibrant and engaging. Indie games like Celeste and Hollow Knight have been praised for their unique takes on familiar genres, proving that innovation is still very much alive in the industry. And as an indie developer, if that's you, yeah, you're going to have to lean into something innovative. Even if it's just taking like, I like this and I like that, I'm going to mash it together, and it's never been done in this type of game before, you can call that innovative. If you're making a Dead Space clone, and it pretty much is a clone where you're like, okay, this guy's name is Isaac, and he's he's a space engineer assistant instead of just an engineer, then you might be copying too much. You got to change a couple of key aspects to the game. If you're gonna take inspiration from a game, take inspiration. Don't completely clone it. Now, player engagement and community feedback is another big part of this. They have become increasingly important in the development process. Early access releases and public betas allow developers to gather feedback and make improvements. However, this can be a double-edged sword. While feedback can lead to better games, it can also create pressure to cater to vocal minority opinions, potentially compromising the original vision. You got to be careful. Some things, like especially how it plays, how it feels, if people are enjoying it, is good to take away from these and get a good diverse. It's just like a study. It's just like a player test, or whatever you want to call it, a play test, requires a good data set. Just like in studies conducted by scientists, you got to have a good sample size. And it's very much this case too with working with people. You can't just choose, okay, I'm going to choose my friend group solely. They're going to have your back on a lot of things. Sometimes they'll be, maybe you have assholes for friends. Sometimes it's good to have someone like that to give you crap about certain things, but sometimes they're just not going to, they could say something's bad that they just don't like. There's a lot of mechanics that I love in games, and I have friends that don't like those mechanics. If I would have just asked those friends, I would never put those mechanics into a game. So there you go. You just gotta get the right audience and the right sample size, and you can find them, especially with like YouTubers online and all that. Games like No Man's Sky and Rainbow Six Siege have undergone significant changes post-launch, largely due to community feedback. While these changes have improved the games, they also highlight the evolving nature of game development, meaning once you release a piece of crap, it doesn't have to remain that. No Man's Sky is, I don't know if I'd say it's a piece of crap, but it definitely came out and was not what people expected. They worked hard on it. They've improved it over the years. They keep on coming out with updates. That is how you win people over. People will keep on buying the game because there'll be more people interested, and more people are birthed every day, and more people grow up and they'll buy the game. So if you want to go like the 7 Days to Die route or the No Man's Sky route, you can go that route. Just make sure it has a good hook and people are excited for it. Now, in conclusion, While the challenges of modern game development are significant, they also present incredible opportunities for creativity and innovation. As aspiring game developers, understanding these dynamics is crucial to pushing the boundaries of what games can achieve. So the next time you feel that games aren't as good as they used to be, consider the complexities and the pressures that go into making modern games. Embrace the diversity and innovation in today's gaming landscape, and let's continue to push the industry forward. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, bash that bell with your crowbar for more insights into game development and the journey that we're all on, especially me as an indie developer. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about the state of modern games? I'm assuming since you're making games, you think that you can, that just the past games are good and the new games are bad. You're assuming you can make something good. So until next time, happy developing. Peace out. Later, guys.